a higher risk of thunderstorms, meaning more heavier downpours, but it's not proving to be as widespread. We'll start off with Ernesto, the latest update. It's basically just under 200 kilometers away from Bermuda, and it continues to advance slowly around 20 kilometers an hour. So that puts it moving just west of Bermuda in about 10 hours. Already dealing with storm force winds, close to hurricane force wind gusts, and conditions will deteriorate. And they're calling it life-threatening because of the potential of significant flooding, both in terms of the rainfall as well as the significant storm surge. And obviously, they're going to be dealing with widespread hurricane force winds. So that's what we're talking about right now. I've actually made a little box around Bermuda so you know where it is. It then continues to accelerate. It will likely still be a Category 1 hurricane as it passes southeast of Nova Scotia. So there will be some impacts across Nova Scotia, a higher risk across the Avalon, and then it moves off into the North Atlantic. Now, in terms of temperatures today, close to normal for this time of year. Around 27 is that normal. 26 right now in Windsor as we start to see a little bit more sunshine. Humid though, feeling closer to 34. And this is going to be the story as we step forward into the day tomorrow as well. There is a special weather statement from Environment Canada. It's not included in Windsor, Leamington, Chatham, or Sarnia, London, and eastward. This is an area that will likely see a higher risk or probability, if you will, for heavier pulses of rain and thunderstorms. And some locales could exceed 30 to 60 millimeters of rainfall. There's our wave of rainfall moving off. The system itself is not done with us yet. It's going to slowly migrate into lower Michigan, and there's a lot of lightning, which means thunderstorms. So that's what I was talking about for tomorrow as well as Sunday. We got through the steady rainfall. Now we're into the potential of thunderstorms. I don't think that it's going to be significant in terms of what we're going to see tomorrow. I think that Sunday will likely end up being the wetter of the 2 days, but still be prepared. Have an umbrella, have a plan B for outside activities, but just don't cancel your outside plans. As we get through Sunday, once again, the risk of these waves or pulses of rain and a few thunderstorms. It's not until Sunday night and into Monday that the system finally says farewell, and you will clear out and see a lot of sunshine as we get into Monday afternoon. So in terms of the overnight lows, stuck in the 20s. Once we get into the day tomorrow, highs around 25 to 27, but it's going to feel at times as high as 35. So like I said, it's going to be humid. Once we get into Sunday, daytime highs around 25. Once we get into Monday, we clear back out. That's when the northerly winds take over. So it's going to feel much cooler, much fresher, Jason, with a high of 23 for Monday, highs around 23 for Tuesday with lots of sun, and 24 for Wednesday as well. A nice run of sun and very comfortable conditions. It's likely going to feel like the mid-20s. So if you're not a fan of the heat, next week is for you.
Yeah, I like how the stickiness will seem to be going away next week, so that's a positive.
100%.
Thanks so much, Chris.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Still to come, Australian breakdancer Rachel Gunn is speaking publicly after widespread ridicule about her Olympic performance. We'll hear her story next. Residents of Jasper, Alberta began returning home today for the first time since a massive wildfire tore through the town more than 3 weeks ago. It destroyed about a third of the community, most of them homes. But as Sam Sampson reports, today's return doesn't necessarily mean they can stay.
A few dozen vehicles lined up very early this morning at this national park gate to make that journey home. As of Friday, only residents are allowed back into Jasper. There have been bus tours to allow homeowners to see the damage, but this is the first time they can go into their houses and wander around town. A moment that comes with some anxiety.
It's been 3 weeks to try to digest what it's going to look like and how it's going to be. And like I said, I mean, I'm one of the fortunate ones that seems to still have a house. But there's a lot of people in this town that have completely lost everything. And so we're ready to come back and, you know, get our lives together, but also to help the whole community.
A wildfire at the end of July destroyed a third of the town's buildings. Fire danger and other hazards kept residents from returning, and Friday was their first chance to get up close to the destruction.
I am at my laundry, where it used to be, at least. If you could see behind me,
Yeah,
it's all a bunch of it's a pile of rubble right now. Entering Jasper has been really emotional for me. When, you know, it feels to be home, but it feels a little different.
Even though residents can come back, not everyone will stay. People with health conditions and even those who are pregnant are encouraged not to live in Jasper until the hospital is back at full capacity. And the municipality says if residents want to stay, they need to bring at least 3 days worth of supplies like food and water. There are so many things homeowners need to think about, even if their house is still standing.
That's things like putting the fridges out and taping those up and putting them to the curb. We don't want people to do that until they've chatted with their insurance companies to make sure that they're covered for any of the losses that might occur. Then after that, they're likely looking at cleaning. You know, there'll be smoke impacts and damage.
There's no timeline for visitors to come back to Jasper. It's a major part of rebuilding and getting back to normal, especially for a community that relies so heavily on tourism. But for now, the municipality says the focus is on those who live in Jasper and helping them come to terms with this new reality. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Jasper National Park.
U.S. Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris made her first major policy address today. She unveiled her economic plan to help lower the cost of living if she wins the presidency in November.
Under my plan, more than 100 million Americans will get a tax cut, and we will do this by restoring 2 tax cuts designed to help middle-class and working Americans.
In addition to tax breaks, Harris proposed a federal ban on price gouging on groceries by corporations. She also pledged a $25,000 down payment for qualified homebuyers and tax incentives for builders of starter homes. Harris says she'll introduce a new child tax credit for families with infants and lower health insurance premiums through the Affordable Care Act. Harris said building up the middle class will be a defining goal of her presidency. Australian breakdancer Rachel Gunn is speaking out. She was the subject of ridicule after her performance in Paris received 0 points from the judges. Gunn and the Australian Olympic Committee are calling for kindness and an end to widespread misinformation about her. Susanna De Silva has her story.
What we got, Ray Gunn?
It was an Olympic performance
Bam. Bam, bam.
that got the internet going faster than a 100-meter sprint, with no shortage of comments and memes, even real-life creations.
Where's that music coming from?
And late-night impersonations.
Wow, Ray.
And while some found joy in it all, something else came just as quickly.
I didn't realize that that would also open the door to so much hate, which has frankly been pretty devastating.
Australia's Rachel Gunn has now spoken out, appreciative of the support she has received and calling out what she says is misinformation.
Well, I went out there and I had fun. I did take it very seriously. I worked my butt off preparing for the Olympics.
An online petition gathered more than 50,000 signatures questioning her selection and calling for an investigation, forcing the Australian Olympic Committee to release a statement calling it vexatious, misleading, and bullying, adding it has stirred up public hatred without any factual basis. It then lays out how she qualified through what it says were fair and independent events.
If you break, you know that Ray Gunn knows what she's doing.
Toronto breakdancer or b-boy Switch B provided the commentary on the competition for CBC. He says breaking culture isn't as strong in places like Australia, but insists her performance was much more than a handful of snippets turned into memes.
But Ray Gunn's a B-girl. You know what I mean? And no one can ever take that away from her. And a lot of the people at home that are talking in the comment section, if they had to battle her, they would get roasted. They would get smoked, for real.
The petition against her appears to have been taken down, while Gunn has asked for privacy while on vacation with her family, promising to speak more when she gets back. Susanna De Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
Still to come here on CBC Windsor News Live at 6, a very old letter connected to the First World War is being given to someone very special. That story is next. A very old, very cherished letter has made a very special journey to Canada. It was written during the First World War by a Canadian pilot who had been captured by the Germans. He wrote it to his commanding officer, who kept it. Now the officer's grandson has brought the letter to Ottawa to show it to the pilot's daughter, rather. CBC's Arthur White-Crummey has the story.
A famous British orchestra conductor arrives in Ottawa with a 107-year-old note in his backpack. It was addressed to his grandfather, and it came from the air.
In the First World War, there was a much more genteel custom whereby if an aircraft was shot down, the pilot, if he survived the shooting down, was allowed to write a note and send it across to his squadron commander.
In 1917, Royal Flying Corps pilot Duncan McTavish wrote such a note after German fighters shot down his plane in France. His observer was dead, he was wounded behind enemy lines, and now a prisoner. Before heading to a German POW camp, he penciled a few lines to his commander, E.L. Howard Williams.
The Germans then fly across to the airfield, waggle the wings to show they're not going to attack the airfield, and the note is weighed down by a brick and it's dropped on the center of the airfield.
The story could have ended there, until Howard Williams died.
My father was going through his effects and found one of these notes. And he thought, wouldn't it be wonderful if some of his family were still alive? Wouldn't they like to hear this story?
They were, not just the family, but Duncan McTavish himself, then living in Canada. Inglis Howard Williams' father headed to Winnipeg in 1976 to show him his note. Now, Inglis Howard Williams is in Ottawa to recreate that photo with McTavish's daughter.
I actually have the note here with me now. Dear Williams, just a line to let you know that we were brought down this morning. Poor Alan was killed and I was wounded in the right foot. Give my love to everyone. McTavish.
In a senior's residence across town, Barbara Welch, the pilot's daughter, waits with her family.
How do you do?
I've come 6,000 miles to see you. Have you ever seen the note?
Have you got it?
I have.
That's amazing. Think how old it is.
It's very difficult to read because he wrote it in pencil.
Okay.
This is the note your father wrote to my grandfather.
This has been pretty exciting and fun. It has. It's been fun. I wish he was alive. He'd been thrilled to know what went on, to meet Anthony and all the rest of it. He really would have. It would have made his day.
Arthur White-Crummey, CBC News, Ottawa.
That's it for us here at CBC Windsor News. Thank you so much for watching. Meg Roberts is back on Monday. Have a great weekend.